What's going on here is much more complex than that.
Can we skip this? Like, hit the skip button or something?
Oh, you don't want to skip this.
Yes, we do.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my South Park, The Stick of Truth, hardcore video walkthrough. We're entering the Giggling Donkey, or thereabouts. But before we do that, we have to talk to Cartman. So you want to walk back to Cooper Keep, the home of the KKK, and not the one that you're probably familiar with. But once you come here, Cartman's going to teach you how to do the, I think it's the dragon shout fart, I believe it is at this point. You'll notice I've trimmed out a lot of the tutorials, mainly because they take really long, and the tutorials that you do against the dummies aren't how they work in battle. You know, the controls, for all intents and purposes, are the same, but they don't play out the same, and it's one of the great disconnects in this game when you try to use the farts in battle, or even in the tutorial, and you fail them, and you can't understand why. And it's just because they're very particular on how they want you to perform them. And a lot of the times they'll make you hold analogues for much longer than you actually have to do in the game. But once you've finished anyhow and you leave the Cooper Keep, you will be transported to the Giggling Donkey, which is somebody else's house. I think it's Jimmy's house. And everything that you grab in here, this may be wrong, but in my knowledge of going back and playing twice after I beat the game, I wasn't able to get back into this place. So everything in here is available at one time only, so make sure you grab the most of the things that you can get. There's also an achievement here, which is apparently one of the best places to do it, which is for farting on 3 people at the same time and knocking them out. And I feel like I've done that numerous times, but it hasn't given me the achievement. But once you go down to the bottom screen, it's going to introduce Jimmy. I've trimmed the cutscene out, and then we fight him. So Jimmy's going to sing, and every time he sings, it's going to buff the elves. But don't worry too much, because these early fights, now we've got the dart, you're really going to see the damage of the two elements going together. So immediately, we killed one person and the other person's going to die immediately after his turn. So Butters comes along, he's going to do some massive damage to weaken another one of them. And we've pretty much got the game down at this moment. Mainly because bleed and fire or burn are so damaging. And I mess up Butters' move there, which is rare. But he goes into the riposte stance, which means if you hit him with a physical attack, he'll automatically counter you and do massive damage. You have to hit him with a bow or magic. And something that really confused me about this game is the enemies do the riposting stance for melee, they do the reflective stance for projectiles, yet you never really get the ability to do that to them. Like, there's no defensive options on this game. And one thing you will notice is there doesn't seem to be a way to just not do anything for a turn. You know, you can't skip your turn. The closest I've come to skipping a turn is by not inputting the quick time to do the move. And it seems a bit strange for an RPG, but then again, this is not the most... It's a traditional RPG in the sense, but it's not the most conventional, because it does have some really silly inputs. But now that you beat these guys up, there's going to be a ton of environmental stuff you can do here. So I just broke the light of the flame so I could hit that and knock him out with a fart, because we've now got Cooper Fart and it's really effective. And then from here on, I'm going to be pretty much using farts to fight before the fight happens. And on this next sequence, there's 3 guys. So I end up fighting them. These are the people I think you can do the fart on and knock them all out, but I didn't do it, as you just saw. But this is a longer video, so it does give me an opportunity to talk about quite a lot of stuff. So I've noticed since recording that there's boss music, there's music, sorry, in the fights occasionally, and then for the most it's just not there, so it could potentially be an audio bug that I was having that I'll hopefully get a patch for some time. You know, they'll tweak it, unless it's intentional to have some battles just deathly silent, which I can't imagine that it is. But the encounter that you're looking at right now involves 2 of the standard guys. One guy has a shield and then there's a healer. You always want to incapacitate the healer because he's going to keep everybody else alive. And they're dead easy to spot because they're generally called priests or mages, and they generally have the same headdress that Kyle wears, which signifies he's a mage. But there goes Butters with the electricity dropping armor values, and and doing some sick damage. He goes into the riposte stance and then attacks Butters. I completely mess up my blocks, but I get the last one, which makes up for it. And then he casts armor on himself and then comes in to do a slow hit. And slow is very dangerous on hardcore. I'm not too sure what it's like on the other difficulties because I haven't played them, but the priority scheme of the turns doesn't work the same when you're slowed, and if both your characters are slowed, you can end up getting double turned. And it only happened to me once, and I wasn't able to replicate it, but some guy got 2 attacks off on me, and they didn't use the attack coffee, which, you know, it's a little bit disconcerting, especially when, you know, you try not to get your ass slapped. But there's the counter. It did 1 damage, which I assume it's because he's armoured. Butters comes in with a hammer. Nice 51 damage and 1 damage of Holy, which when you're first playing the game it's really misleading because it makes it look like you do, you know, 3 digits worth of damage, which sounds massive, and then you don't kill people, and it turns out that the last digit's just behind them, not added, so it's just like 50 damage and then 1 split damage. But I'm using the mace that heals you. It's not the best weapon at this point, but the point of the combat early on and later on, once we get better equipment, is just to bleed people and burn people. And for this guy, I temporarily seem to have forgot, but look at him just railing on Butters. And I don't know if I've mentioned, but do not take chances with allies. Like, when their life gets low, or even when it gets like towards halfway, just heal them. Because if you don't, they'll die. The computer seems to always attack them when they're about to die. You know, I don't even think it's an intelligent thing. I think it's just a priority system where they will always go for your buddy rather than you. And it's really annoying sometimes, but we get him there with some burn, and then that gives us the Elvish short bow. Which, the bows are cool because they've got multiple hits and you can get some really damaging ones, but you're not going to see me using any. So, all you have to do now is let Craig in, or Craig as it's pronounced in the American way. And I'm going to check on my equipment. Interesting. So I upgrade the backstab. The reason for that is the backstab, once you do enough, not only does it do amazing things like bleed, but it damages stunned opponents more. And the combo that we're trying to work on is the stun from the mug, and then the backstab to kill. And on my first playthrough, when I got to, you know, the end of the game at level 15, which was max, my backstabs were doing 10,000 damage. On this playthrough, they were only doing about 5, so I'm not too sure if it's just literally the level difference, or if there's some modifier that I wasn't aware of, or some weapon adjustment that I didn't have, because I was not doing nowhere near the same amount of damage that I did on my first playthrough. But I beat the game in about 3 hours and 40 minutes, 3.5 hours. And on my first playthrough, it took me over 10, so that's the difference as well. But in here is Cartman. He's having a bit of trouble. I'm going to stun one of these guys. I've already stunned one of them from the initiation of the fight, so there's only the dude with the trowel left. So Butters can either focus on the trowel guy, or he can hit an entire lane, which he's doing here with Hammer of Stones. So it takes half his life. He's going to do Wrath of the Elves, which gives him a nice buff, and he's going to come in for a double swing, so Butters gets the first block. Oh, it's only a single one. Interesting. I'm going to throw more darts because his pal's woken up, so it's time to get those status effects happening. Something else that this game does that's really strange, you can attack people when they're down. And I assume the joke is that they're pretending to be dead. You know, they're pretending to die, because they're children and it's their imagination. But it wastes a turn, and when you ever have a weapon like the darts, where one of their attack parameters is attack 3 people randomly, you can't aim it. So if you want to prioritize, that's the major downside with these kind of items. And especially when there's more than one guy, or there's, you know, a couple of dead people there, because they will throw darts at people who are already dead. And it's definitely something you don't expect, because I haven't seen it in an RPG ever, and I've been playing them since I was a small kid. And maybe I'm just playing the wrong ones, but attacking dead bodies has never been something you were able to do. But this guy's reinforcing his armour, and you'll notice the burn damage killed him. the combination of bleed and burn, when you can stack it really quickly, it's so powerful, guys. Like, people have been telling me that the Jew class is really powerful, but I think they're underestimating the bleed and burn combination. Like, just imagine the Jew class with bleed and burn. You know, he's probably ridiculous, because I have read since the recording of this that all the classes are intrinsically the same. You know, they've got slightly different abilities, but they don't have any really class-specific stuff. So you can technically play anything you want. It'll just depend on what your abilities are. And a lot of the times, if you gear your character correctly, your normal attacks will be stronger than your abilities. Like, I was searching on some forums the other day, after I'd recorded the guide, and a lot of people are complaining about Al Gore, saying that it's a really hard fight. And I don't know if they're taking him on early level, I don't know how it's working out, but I've done that quest twice now, both times on hardcore. The first time I did it before the end game, this time I did it after end game, and both times he can kill you really fast if you get unlucky, because he summons a bunch of dudes that can just murk you. But I did it solo, post game, and I killed him in 2 turns. So I've recorded it, and I'm going to share it for people who need a strategy against him. I don't really understand what people are having issue with, aside from when he summons the CIA guys or the NSA dudes, and they all shoot one person, and they can literally kill you if you're unlucky or you don't guard. But for the most, I think the hardest fight on the game is the Sparrow Prince, because he doesn't bleed, so my strategy is, you know, completely worthless on him. And he has the ability to use eye lasers that just rape you, just completely demolish you. And that right there, I believe he's stunned. I don't think he's actually dead. He looks dead, but he's not. But I've been running around South Park trying to finish off side quests, trying to finish everything, and I still haven't found one of the hobos for the hobo side quest, which is really baffling because I've looked everywhere. I still haven't found Mel Gibson, and I think I found like 90 South Park residents, so I'm missing quite a few friends. There's still like 30 left. I need 2 Chim Pokemon dolls, and I believe the 2 I've missed are in areas I can't get back to, which is really frustrating. And I've been exploring Canada, which, spoiler alert, you go to Canada, and there's nothing there. There's literally nothing in Canada except for an exclusive fight and some weapons to buy if you're trying to get all the weapons and equipment achievements. So I think Canada's probably the weakest part of the game. It's a really funny joke, and it's a really nice throwback to traditional RPGs, but I think the gameplay of what they have you doing there is not quite as interesting as some of the stuff you navigate in South Park. But now that we've took care of all the else, all we have to do now is go upstairs because Princess Kenny is being raped. Which Butter says some great things, if you listen, just now. There you go. As you're exploring, he makes a ton of inappropriate gestures towards us, taking our time when Kenny's being raped. And I know rape is obviously a very serious thing, but as with a lot of comedy, you know, you can still tell a rape joke and it be funny, and those particular ones are incredibly funny as long as you're not too overly sensitive and you appreciate the fact it's being silly and hyperbolic. It's just, I didn't expect him to say it, and they're always the best ones that surprise you. Like the City Walk guy says that the Mongolians smell like Lionel Richie's asshole, and it killed me. It absolutely fucking killed me, because it's just so specific and stupid, and that's my favourite kind of humour. And it's the same with some of the people in South Park. When you're just running around, they say random stuff, especially if you've got the David Hasselhoff face on, which I am going to be doing in this walkthrough. But I walked past this dude just walking down the street, minding my own business, and he just goes, "Sometimes I wake up with a sore asshole." And it's just one of those moments where, because you're not expecting anything so stupid, it tickles me. And a lot of this game tickles me because it's really funny at times. But this is another buddy sequence. You're going to need Kenny in your team, so Kenny can show his fake titties and lure this guy down who likes tidbitties. And there you go. You mirror him to the face, and we're going to navigate the attic so that we can drop down into the locked room and take on the boss of the Giggling Donkey, which is Jimmy. And Jimmy's got a lot of life. He is the first real high life boss we fought. As I upgrade backstab and look towards these perks. So these are the perks for finding friends. I think that a lot of them are pointless. I think they're not even necessary, and I'm going to do a run where I don't use any of them just to see if it affects anything, because for a game that's an RPG and for a level up reward and for something called a perk, I would have liked, you know, more drastic perks. Perks that mean something. And unfortunately, they're all so generic that they just kind of don't. But you'll notice there's a Chim Pokemon doll there. He's called like Roid Rat or something. And I get gangbanged by rats, which I wasn't expecting. And the funny thing about the rats is if you can hit them first with some bleed and some burn, they will always do this buff up at the beginning, and after the buff they die because the status effects kill them. But there we go, they've already got 2 bleed on them, and they're already burnt. Kenny's going to deliver some arrows. And my strategy for adding on to weapons to make them more useful is make them cause more bleed on a perfect hit and make them cause more fire damage. Because if you have those two things, perfect hitting with the darts is incredibly easy because it's just a rhythmic pressing of the button, and you can get 3 quick hits off, which are going to deliver massive status effects. And if you hit 2 people, they both have +5 bleed, which is the highest bleed goes outside of, I think it's the Kenny fight, or maybe it's just a glitch, but occasionally you can have bleed times 6, and I don't really get why. But that guy's in a cowardly state at the moment because we fucked him up, so if you hit him, it doesn't cause a fight, it just knocks him out. There's Roid Rat and the awesome Chim Pokemon Spiel. And then you just have to go towards the bottom right corner of the attic, and you can knock this. You see how it's glinting, the shelf up there? The chest falls down, it makes a hole, and then when you drop in, you get to fight Jimmy. So here we go, Jimmy boss fight. So there's the cutscene skip, and here is the battle. Jimmy does a lot of big moves. He summons a bunch of rats because, you know, they're playing on the Pied Piper. But if you get lucky here with Butters, Professor Chaos can get rid of everything really quickly. The thing is with it, it's kind of a roulette wheel that spins around, and you can stop it skillfully if you want to, and if you've got eyes like a, I don't know, like a hawk. But I really couldn't, you know, suss the wheel to get any kind of skill from it, so I just bash A, and I pick the first one it gives, because, like, I tried, guys, I tried to watch it and see if I could get some kind of rhythm by counting and getting the stuff I wanted, and I couldn't. And the reason I would have liked it is, Professor Chaos has a ton of abilities. Some of them are combative, others are defensive, and the defensive one is incredibly powerful. And there's a couple of fights where if you get really unlucky with who the AI picks, they can just murk one of your friends immediately. And you only get 1 turn, and that 1 turn there's nothing you can use to increase your defense except for perhaps some passive things that you can get, or maybe some spells that one of their buddies has that I haven't used. But the one way I know that guarantees good defense is the Professor Chaos Shield, which gives you a handful of shield points, and it's super useful. But very difficult to get it intentionally. But you'll notice we've got Jimmy burning, we've got him bleeding, 5 bleed and full burn, and he's nearly done. And I just drop a couple of hips, drop a fart on him, and after his next attack, which is going to be a channel, he's going to probably be nearly dead. So I'm going to do a heavy hit probably. There we go. And then after this he dies. There you go. Just goes to show, guys, status effects, incredibly powerful, and you want to use them. And I actually walked around this place for ages on my first playthrough trying to find a way out, and the way out is to talk to Cartman, because there literally is not a door out of this building. Kind of bullshitty, not a fan of that, but I suppose it makes sense. Thank you for watching, and you take care now.